So
And
you talk about the proto psychopath, the people that somehow have been conditioned or pushed into that. How close can they get to actual psychopathy, and how can, is there a way to turn them back?
oh, absolutely, they can be turned back, and absolutely they can be cured. They would become, the proto-psychopath will be nearly always be, in many cases, a product of environment, background, family conditioning. It's classic nurture versus nature situation. The proto-psychopath could have been exposed to sexual abuse as a child, from a relative, from a member of the clergy, from a school teacher, and as a result grows up with a repressed rage to take it out on others, untrusting of people. They can go extremely far. I'll give you an example of it. I'll give you a very good example of a proto-psychopath and a psychopath working together, and how the difference between one and the other. In the 1960s in Manchester in England, there was a notorious couple called Ian Brady and Moira Hindley. They were known in the media as the Moors murderers. They kidnapped and tortured 5 children, and they buried them in the, well, at least 5 children, and buried their bodies in the moors around Manchester, in the mountains around Lancashire. Now, Ian Brady, who lived in the building, was a classic psychopath. He was the one who instigated the abductions, filmed and recorded tape recorded the torture of the children, and did all the killing. Moira Hindley, his girlfriend, was a woman who grew up in an extremely dysfunctional home. She was subject to incredible violence, sexual abuse, incest, and by 2 drunken and crazy parents who were completely the most dysfunctional family you ever came across. Brady, when they were living in the same apartment building, Brady instantly recognized that Moira Hindley had this dysfunctional past, and then set about to, heal her past by being almost like the father figure or the man she desired. Once he had psychological domination and psychological dominion over her psyche, he then tested her. First person they killed, I believe, was a 17-year-old guy called John Kilbride. He strangled him in front of her, and she was shocked at first, but he played the game to make her go along and help him dispose of the body. And then every time along this chain, he kept pushing her boundaries and playing on her insecurities and her she was basically a profoundly uneducated, disadvantaged and lost soul. Now that doesn't excuse what she did partaking in these murders. She should have went to prison, which she did. She died. She lived to be 60 and died in prison of cancer. But she should have been punished for what she did. But having said that, to me, she was a proto-psychopathic mind control slave. She was, if she had have met a different kind of man, she would have ended up completely different in her personality. When they were, during the trial, which was an enormous media sensation in this part of the world, there's some very good documentaries and films of that. I would suggest you check them out. Some good books too, Moors Murderers. Moira Hindley on the defense stand was playing a tape of a 10-year-old girl called Leslie Ann Downing, I think her name was Downing. She was being tortured by Brady, and as sickening as that was, in the background of the tape, Moira Hindley came into the room and told her to shut up. And this shocked people because, a woman no less, showing no sympathy towards a child who was being sexually, he was actually making pornographic photographs of her. Now, what happened there was that Brady had made a second copy of the tape. And when he was asked on the witness stand why he made the second copy of the tape, he said, because it was so interesting and I didn't want to lose it. And that is about as perfect an insight as you can get into the psychopathic mind as possible. the only interest that Brady had in these horrific crimes was purely as a recreational thing. And he made a copy of the tape because it was quite different than the tapes of the other children. When this was going on the stand in the courtroom, Moira Hindley was asked by, when she heard the tapes, by the prosecuting barrister, how does this make you feel? She turned around and said, oh my God, I'm ashamed. What had happened was she'd literally come out of her proto-psychopathic mind control program while listening to this tape in the dock, in the courthouse. And that was the difference between Moira Hindley and Ian Brady. She was a proto-psychopath who had been brought to this point through a terribly dysfunctional childhood, family background, coupled with the mind control, gaslighting and crazy making which Ian Brady performed upon her.
So,
and that's the difference between the two.
So what I kind of hear you saying is that one of the steps to start the healing of a proto-psychopath is actually confrontation, somehow making them confront their own deeds.
Yes, it's almost like a form of behavioral therapy. These people are capable of redemption, and they do feel empathy, but they repress it deeply inside them, because their neuroses causes them to block out the empathy that should be there anyway. It becomes an almost de facto justification for their behaviour. It's the most unfortunate rationalization, because it will often lead them to a miserable life. And these people, they break the law, but otherwise, if they're behaving like psychopaths, an attempt should be made to reform them. And I believe in every case, just about every case, you could reform a proto-psychopath through behavioral therapy, in order to get them to confront what they did and show the full impacts of this of their behavior upon victims, and it will change them. Now, in the movie, in Stanley Kubrick's movie A Clockwork Orange, there's a scene where where Malcolm McDowell they're trying to reform him through a sort of an electronic scientific method of behavioral therapy, and while it's actually going on, he's in shock. But as soon as it's over, he's not. And he says, "I was cured all night." And he was a psychopath, because once the actual experience of the actual scientific method to cure him was over, he just went back to what he was, a psychopath. So yes, psychopaths cannot be cured. Well, not with current technology. It'd be great if they could, but that's not possible right now. And